Hi everyone. The problem now that we are going to solve involves the input table as emp info. This table has below columns emp ID, which is the ID of the employee, emp name, which is the name of the employee, emp location, which is the location of the employee, emp manager ID, which is the manager ID of the employee. So every entry gives information related to the employee as to what is their name, what is their location, and who is their manager. So now, as part of the output, we need to find out who are all the employees who are reporting to a manager along with the total reportee count. So, for example, for manager Bhaskar, the reportees are Abhijeet and Neha. Okay, so as we see here, so for Bhaskar, the employee ID is 230 and Neha and Abhijit are reporting to manager ID 230. That means they are reporting to Bhaskar. So we need to find out who are the employees who are reporting to each of the managers. So to Bhaskar, Abhijit and Neha are reporting. Similarly, to Neha, there are three employees who are reporting, which include Priya, Rishabh, and Satyam. So if we see here, employee ID for Neha is 675, and there are these three people who are reporting to employee ID 675. So this way, we have to determine for each of the managers who are the employees who are reporting, and we have to list them as comma separated in the ascending order of the names. So if we see here, first is Priya, then is Rishabh, then is Satyam. So it is in the sorted order. In ascending order, it is sorted by the employee name column. And also for the employees who are not reporting to any manager. So if we see in the input, there are two employees who are not reporting to any manager. So they are like the CEO of the company. They are the main boss. So for them, we have to specify the manager name as none and specify the list of employees who are not reporting to any manager and their count. So for each of them, we also have to report the count. So along with the manager name, we have to have the list of the employees who are reporting to those managers and the total number of count of these employees who are reporting. For example, 3 in this case, 2 in this case, and so on. So hope the input and output is clear. Now let's work on this problem and try to generate the required output. Okay. So as a first step, what we will do is we will work on this input table and we will focus on this column, that is emp manager ID. We will get the data from the input table, that is emp info. We will fetch the column emp manager ID and we will do a grouping on this column, that is the emp manager ID. So what we will do is we will group the data on this column and we will get the names in particular group. So for example, in this group, we will create, when we will do a grouping, we will create a single record, and for the emp names, we will now create a single list. So how we will create a single list? We will write a aggregate function string ag. Here we will specify which is the column which we have to convert to a list format. So we will specify the emp name column and we have to specify the separator. So we will specify comma. So this will be the total reportee. So let's run and see the output. As we see, for each of the manager ID, we have got the name of the employees. But we want this list to be in a sorted order. Currently, it is not in sorted order as we see here. We need to sort it in the ascending order of the employee name. So to do that, what we will do is, along with this string ag, we will add the clause within group, and in this we will specify the order in which this has to be sorted. So we will specify order it by the emp name column. This will sort the data here, whatever we are creating as a list, it will order it by the employee name column. So let's run this and see the output. Okay, so we have got the output, and as we see here, the data is now in the sorted way. So we see Priya is first, then is Rishabh, then is Satyam. Similarly, for the other entries, we see that the data is in the sorted order. Okay, so now we have fetched the list of reportees, and the requirement is to get the number of reportees that are present. So for that, we will use the count function. We will use the count function and let's name it as total reportees. And let's run this and see the output. So now, along with the employees who are reporting to the managers, we have got the count as well. So the last part that is pending is we have to get the manager names and not just the manager ID. So here we have the manager ID. We have to remove this, and instead we have to keep the manager name here. So how do we do that? How do we find the manager name? So once we have got this output, we will find the manager name in the input table. So for example, for this manager ID 155, if we go to the input table and search for employee ID 155 as to who is the person, we will find that it is Abhijeet. So here the manager ID is for Abhijeet. So this way we have to replace the manager ID by manager name. So we can join this data with the source table and fetch the manager name. So how we will do it is, so we have constructed this CTE for now. We have these columns, and this is our source table, that is emp info. Now for the manager ID, we have to find the manager name. So what we will do is, we will use this as a lookup column, and we will go to the source table and check in the employee ID column for this value. So for example, 155, we will search in this column, and wherever it is found, we will fetch the emp name. So this is how we will operate. It is a join operation that we are doing here, and we are joining based on the manager ID from the manager CTE and in the emp ID column in the emp info table. So that is how we are doing, and ultimately we will fetch the emp name column to get the manager name. So let's implement this and get the final output. Okay, so what we will do is, we will add this as part of a CTE. Let's call it as the manager CTE as we just discussed. Okay, so now we will operate on this manager CTE, and let's do a inner join first to understand how the output looks like, and we will join with the input table. So the input table is emp info. Let's give the aliases. So let's give m for the manager CTE, e for the input table, that is emp info. And as we saw, the join condition is manager ID from the source, that is the manager CTE that we have just constructed, and emp ID from the emp info table. Okay, so here let's give the column name as manager ID. What we will do is, we will do the join here on the manager ID, and from the source we will do it on the employee ID. Okay, so this way we will do the join operation, establish the link with the input table, and then we will fetch the emp name. That will be our manager name. So the emp name that we will get, Let's give the Elias as manager name, and the other columns from the CTE we will keep as it is, that is the reportee and the total reportees. So let's run and see the output. So we have got the required output, but there is a problem here. So we are not getting the expected output, as to there are some employees who are not reporting to any of the managers, like Bhaskar and Sanjay. So they have not been mentioned here. What is the reason? Okay, so if we come here, so what we have done is we have done a inner join. What is meaning of inner join? That is, if there is a match, only then the records will be reported. So for example, for 155 the match is found, so this will go in the output. For 230 there is a match found, so it will go in the output. And for each of this we will find a match, it will go in the output. But what about null? So if we check null here, we cannot see null entries, but we want this in the output. So what do we do? So although it's not matching, we want in the output. So in this case, whenever we face a scenario wherein we want the data from the left table, irrespective whether it is matching or not, we will go ahead with the left join. Okay, so let's change the inner join to left join, and let's run it again. So now we can see the output where the manager is null. Manager ID is null. So whenever we are fetching such entries, it will not have anything corresponding in the second table, because there is no match found. So for all these columns, it will be null. That's why the column that we have just fetched here is from the right table. That is the emp name. And emp name will not have anything as null. So that's why it will show the null value for the emp name, and that is what is populated here. Hope it is clear why we are using left join. So we are using it so as to keep all the entries from the left table, even if there is no match found. Okay. The last thing that is pending is we have to replace this null with a none value. So we can achieve it in two ways. We can either use isNull function or colis function. Let's go ahead and use colis function. So if there is a null found, replace it with none. So if the first parameter has a null value, instead of that value, there will be none. But if it has a proper value that is not null value, then not null value will be used. So let's run and see the output. So we have got the required output. So we have sorted the reportees in the ascending order of the employee name, and we have found the number of reportees that are present to the managers. So we have found the manager name, and wherever there is no manager, we have replaced it with value none. Let's go through the query that we have just written to find the solution. So what we have done is we have first of all aggregated the records based on the manager ID column. So once we have done that aggregation, we have got the list of employee name separated by comma, and we have used this clause within group to order the data based on the emp name column. So this way we have fetched the list of employees in sorted order separated by commas. We have used the count function to get the total number of reportees. So once we have this information, the pending item is getting the manager name. So that we have got by doing a join with the source table, that is emp info. By doing the join condition, manager ID from this CTE that we have created with the emp ID, and that's where once the match is found, we have fetched the emp name. If there is no match found, we will get null. So in that case, we have used colis function to populate none value in that case, and rest of the columns are the derived column from the CTE. So this way we have found the output. The create table and insert statements will be added in the description. Please go through it. If you found the video useful, please like it. If you have not yet subscribed the channel, please subscribe the channel and please share the video in your circle so that more people can find it useful, and please provide your feedback in the comments. Thank you.